And welcome to Nothing Useful. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to wait a few seconds to see if anyone shows up. I want to do a tutorial for the guys using this engine. So that they can get an idea how this is going to work. Hopefully I did not have myself muted there. I think I did though. My man should be en route. So we'll wait another minute. Are you here yet, sir? Okay, great. Well, I mean, not great that you're not feeling well, but great that you're here. I just fudging with something here for a second. Just give me a second, it's off stream. I've been told that the lettering is difficult to read in Mappy, which I would agree. So I'm going to try to make it a little easier to read. Okay. Excuse me. Almost ready. Ooh, I got this on random and I want it on random. That's going to bother me. There we go. Hey, Mr. Bailey, how are you? I'm just getting ready to show Blind Man here how I can use this thingamabobber. Hopefully it will help him create things. So give me just a second while I get this set up. Okay, that should do it. Okay, Blind Man, so hopefully when you open up Mappy, it looks something like this. This first block is a nothing block, so you'll never use that for anything unless you do whatever. So I was building a 4-person map. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. So what you guys are going to want to do, you're going to want to go into open. I know you can't see it on the thing. You're going to want to open up your RPG map, whatever it is, test map 123, whatever. It doesn't matter what it's called. And then you want to come in here and you want to go to the layers and delete clear everything out of it. So the easiest way I found to do that is just to go into each layer at a time, floor layer. Actually, no, let me see if I can capture this through display rather than mapping. Hold on a second. Can I get that to work? Can't. It's a pain. Maybe I could if it was on a different screen. Let's take a look here. Okay, are we getting overlays now? Wait, hold on a second. Oh, streamage. Maybe off. Okay, so now you can actually see what I'm doing. This will work. So once you've loaded the map, you'll go to File, Open Map, find that map that we're talking about. And then you also want to do File, Import, and grab the map tiles that go with it, which is the stuff over on the right. Excuse me. Then you're going to want to clear the map out that you don't, for everything you don't want to use. So select floor layer, do clear layer. Boom. Go up to wall layer, clear layer, directional, clear that. Don't think there's anything on the rest of these other than maybe modifiers, so we'll clear this. Detail, clear that one. And last but not least, interactable, clear that one. Okay, so now you should have a blank map. I would go ahead and save that as something else. Okay, so you already did that. Okay, now this is based on your own preference, but I enabled the onion skin so I could see the layers on top of each other cleared out as I move. Right now I have it set to the first two checked and then background layer all so that it grabs everything. You might want to change that as you're working to turn on and off layers. So to begin with, start with the floor layer. I'm going to go ahead and try to do a very quick 4-person dungeon here. So I have this actually zoomed out to half size. That way I know where my boundaries are. But I'm going to go ahead and put a floor here. I'm going to go out to 32 by 32. Actually 31 by 31. And I will put one there, and then I'll go ahead and zoom in on it. So that this makes it look a little bit easier to see. Okay, so here's the space I can work within to create my map. So first things first, I know I'm going to have to make you guys probably a legend for this stuff because these tiles aren't going to be 100% easily recognizable. So here's your basic floor tile, and we're just going to make a couple rooms here out of it. Then you have your alternate floor tile. Now keep in mind, you should lay floors even where you're going to have walls. Now, it might be easier to lay the floors without the walls first and then go back and lay floors under them. But you'll eventually want to have a floor tile under every wall tile just for the sake of clipping, so you don't clip through things or see through stuff. But for now, we'll forego that, and we'll just we'll build all this as if the walls will be built later. So I'm just going to go ahead and come in here and randomly build some rooms. Right click obviously will delete something you placed on that layer. So just be knowledgeable of that fact. And this map's not going to look like anything great or anything. It's just going to be just a little interconnected thing that can test 4 players. So I want to make sure it kind of makes sense. Like, I don't want to build a map that would be unrealistic, but yeah, in general, this map's not going to look like much. It's just me kind of connecting stuff and building small rooms. So we'll call this floor 1 for the sake of what Wolf wants to do with the engine. And maybe yourself, I don't know. Okay, so there's floor 1. That's its boundary. And I'm going to go ahead and create floor 2. I'm going to go left to right and then up to down. So like you would read a book in America anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and drew the floor for floor dungeon 2 here. I need Mr. Bailey to come do this for me. Since he is the master of mapping. Okay, so there's floor dungeon 2. Yeah, I call it floor gag. Name it after you. Why not? Okay. And let's quickly put in 3 and 4. So this is kind of odd. Why can't I see? I feel like that's not square. What the hell? Why? That should be right. Oh, because I wasn't all the way at the top to begin with. Oops. So yeah, the map actually could be much bigger than what I made it to be. Oh well. I made a mistake on that, so that's okay. These maps don't have to fill up all the tiles, so I'm going to demonstrate that next. At least the concept here. So, saying you're 32 by 32, I'm going to go ahead and zoom this out so you can see the whole thing, or most of the whole thing. That was my error to begin with, so we couldn't actually see the whole thing there. Note that when you change layers or change tiles, whatever you committed to the layer before you started moving it around gets saved and changed to a slightly different color. So there is that. So what I was suggesting to Wolf is make floor 4 look like a penis. Okay, fine, I'll make it look like a penis. I'm glad you're here, Mr. Bailey. This is so constructive. Alright, so let's make floor 4 look like a penis. Or floor 3. So there's a sack hanging down. There you go. Just for you. Okay, so we've got the penis floor here. And so this is another 32 by 32. And then in this one, you could actually separate this into more pieces. So this could be floor 4 or floor 5. Floor 6, floor 7. If you had just small portions, you wouldn't necessarily have to make them full-size maps. Does that make sense? So it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things where you place things, as long as you're intelligent about it when you line up stuff as far as mapping goes. So, all right, next I want to switch to, actually, let's put some other stuff in here. So let's put a couple one-floor pits. One tile pits here. Actually, we need, we'll put one right there, actually. So that'll be a pit. We'll make a pit right on the tip too, actually. Let's just do that. Since and then this one we'll make a giant pit room out of. So this is the room type where the pit is together. And if you want to put columns in the center of it, you use this tile. So that'll fill the pit with actual columns there. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these two. And then put that back into tiles that are pits. So, okay, so we've got all this now. Is there any other floor types I want to mess with? I'm not going to mess with any more floors right now. So the next layer you want to work on is the wall layer. So we'll just go ahead and flash in all our walls. And I probably should have made this easier on myself. But note to self, for this particular time, I don't recommend leaving any angles in if you can help it. Meaning this block being empty. Because you will see through the corners unless you add an additional block to it. Now there will be times where you can't help it. And I'll show you what to do in that situation. So, but otherwise, you want to fill every block you can so they're completely encapsulated by walls. Now, it may look like I deleted the floor there, but I didn't. I accidentally drew a wall there. And then when I deleted the wall, it left a blank space. But if I move this around, it'll heal itself, and you'll see that the floor is still there. So just keep that in mind. So I'm just going to put the basic wall in first, and we'll come back in and dress this up a little bit in a minute. And now thus far I've only shown you how to do one floor walls, so the two-story high rooms are different. So just bear that in mind, that takes a different set of tiles we need to use for those. And that's when it will become important how you put the floor in, because the floor will dictate whether or not there's a ceiling in the middle of nowhere if you're trying to use a two-floor system. So, okay, so this is all mapped in now as far as the wall is concerned. Let's get rid of this extraneous tile piece on the floor. I'm going to switch back to floor, delete that and that, and I'm going to switch back to the wall. So now let's put a little bit of interest in here. So we've got our different basic tiles. Use the 4 torch sparingly. Like, it's okay if you put it in the middle of a room or something like that, but in general, it's expensive to render. So, you know, just keep that in mind as you're placing torches. Unless you really need 4 torches in the center of a room, try to avoid doing it. So let's zoom back in here a little bit. So I do recommend that each room should have at least a torch in it, unless you want it to be a completely unlit room. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with the window tile. This is 4 directions, so it doesn't matter where you put it. I'm going to put a couple here between the various areas so you can see through it. I'm also going to use a couple of these prison wall style graded tiles. Because I'm going to theme this. We'll say we want to theme this part of the dungeon as a prison or something like that. So you could do that just by putting those in. Where they connect, obviously you don't want to have it facing nothing. So there are walls you won't want to use that. So we should have some torches in here. Again, these walls are 4 directional, so you don't have to worry about which direction they face. Anything that's got, like this one here, so this is wall torch 4-way, this is wall torch facing north. So if we put this on this tile, we'll say, and that tile, and we'll put one here in the middle of these 2 hallways. So this one is actually facing the right way to begin with. But these 2 up here, they'll be facing into the wall and no one will see them. So we have to go into the directional layer, which is the next one there. And we have to choose this down arrow block over here on the right and add that to those 2 so that they're pointing inwards towards the room. Does that make sense? So you're not actually rotating the tile, you're adding a directional block to tell that tile which way to face. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back to the wall. We're going to put some doorways in here. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the empty door because I don't want to. I want to have a doorway with no door in it for this. You can probably walk through. We'll have to see which ones that are. My guess is you put the wall on the wrong layer, but we'll figure that out here in a second. So we'll use this tile for now because it doesn't have a door in it, and we'll put one here, 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 there, there. Okay, there, and there. Now these obviously will need to be directionally changed too. So all your doors are actually going to be on the north side of the wall face now. So if we wanted this thing to be on the southern tip of it rather than the northern side, we'd actually have to move that with the directional data. So we have to come back in here and we move that south. That way the surface of the door is on the southern side of that tile, not on the northern side. And then for these, we want them to face inward towards the room. So I'm going to change those to face westward. And then I'm going to change this one to face eastward. And that should be all the doors we have to mess with for this map. Now we're going to need a lot more torches here, so let's just go ahead and add a few more. Otherwise you're going to have a very, very dark game. But just don't go crazy with the torches because they do cost a lot of rendering. So just keep that in mind when you're placing these. Do it with some intelligence and not just willy-nilly. Okay, so again we're going to go directional, and I'm going to change some of these around to face south. Where needed, and some facing west where needed. I assume you follow me at this point well enough. And of course some facing east where needed. Okay, I'm going to place a couple more torches on the wall layer again. I think we're going to need some up here. Back to directional. Face that south. Okay. So now this place is lit. So the next thing I want to do in this particular dungeon is I want to go up here and I want to add on the interactable layer, we're going to put where the player 1 spawns. So this P1 here, this tile, is the player one designated spawn point on this map. We're going to put it right here. So when the player camera is activated, he will start in that room. So hopefully that makes sense. Now the rest of these layers, what they're used for, let's go ahead and go through those one at a time. So on the detail layer, you can put things like these floor details, like a puddle, the teleporter, mud, traps, etc. So let's go ahead and put some gratings down. And I'm actually going to go back to the floor layer real quick here. And I'm going to build a couple more spike pits, or a couple more pits to look at. Wrong one. That's not the pit I want. I want this pit. And now I'm going to come back to the detail layer. I'm going to put gratings above those so that you can actually see them. And I'm trying to remember now, I think modifier layer is where you're going to stick the water and things like that. So if I wanted water under there, actually I'll put lava under there. So if I wanted lava pits under there, there goes on the modifier layer, I believe. So I'm going to double check that. Actually, let's check that right now. I'm going to save this. And I'm going to jump over to Unity quick. And we'll test it. So let's see, take that off. Okay. Alright, so map number 4 is now 4-player is the first map, sorry. So I'm going to hit 1 to select the 4-player map I just made. Then I'm going to hit F1 to register the camera. So that brings player 1 into the scene. So I'm going to go ahead and tap the 1 key a few times to give myself a torch in hand. And as you can see, I messed something up. So the detail is fine, but the modifier didn't work. So I think I know what I did wrong. So let's go ahead and go back to mapping. And I think this is something that may have changed since I made mine. So I'm going to delete this from the modifiers layer. I'm also going to go back to the detail layer and get rid of these floors. And instead, I'm going to put the lava on the detail layer. Then I'm going to go down to the wall layer, and then on that layer, I'm going to put these floor tiles on. So I'm pretty sure these floor modifiers actually go on the wall layer, and then these modifiers here go on the detail layer. So let's just double check that's actually true. I hope that is correct, because I don't want to confuse you guys more than I already have. Okay, so map 1, F1 to trigger me. Okay, now we've got it right. Okay, good. So now we've got lava below us and the steel grate above the lava. So, yay, we did that correctly. So yeah, the lava goes on the detail layer. The floor coverings go on the wall layer, just like a wall would. So try to think of it that way. Now there's something else we're going to have to mess with, because these lights are pushing out a gray light right now, which looks stupid. So we're going to go in, we're going to modify. Wow, there's no modifier showing up on any of these walls for some reason. That's kind of weird. Starting to wonder if that modifier got broke somehow. Although there's some right there show up, so okay. Alright, let's take a look at something here really quick. Yeah, they're definitely still there. Ivy holder is 80% chance, but I wasn't seeing any. That's really kind of odd. Ornament holder is 20% chance. Oh, those are all... Okay, I know why that's like that. Never mind. For now, forget about what I just said. So that's okay. We'll come back to that. I do need to fix something there. So we'll go back to mapping. Hey Wolf, how you doing? So we got about this far in what we're talking about. So the next thing, Blind Man, you might want to have those torches be a different color, because that looks stupid the way they are. So go back to your modifiers layer, select this yellowish color here. I know this is probably hard for you to see. These are analogous to colorizing. So this is red, yellowish orange, blue, green, cyan, and purple. So go back over your torches and place this orangey yellow on all of them. And that should give the torches a nice, proper effect. Now, at some point, the flame, etc., will match the glow that we're setting up right now. So let's go ahead and save this in Mappy, and we'll take a look at what that just did. I'm going to let you make the penis monster for me, okay, Mr. Bailey? Okay, so now we've got a yellowish hue rather than a white one. If that makes sense. And there's our doorways that we made earlier, as you can see. But the hallways are pretty boring, because they're all the same block. So we want to do something about that. And also note this. Since we use that wall without a floor under it, we've also got no tile there and no ceiling. So that's why you have to make sure you put floors under each wall as well. So let's go back and fix Mappy and do a couple things here to make this look nicer. So first of all, I'm going to go back to the floor layer. I'm going to hit the basic floor tile. I'm going to go back over all these areas where there's a wall tile and build that in. I know that's probably a pain in the butt, but you can see why it needs to be that way, because otherwise you might see black space there. You don't want that. So make sure every wall tile has a floor tile. Just make sure before you do this you are on the floor layer, because that would be annoying if you weren't. So I'm just going to fix these up quick. And as you can see, they're going to overwrite, look like they overwrite the wall layer, but they're not. We're just updating the floor layer so the onion skin automatically shows you what you've done, rather than showing you the layers above it. So that's a mappy thing. That can be changed, but this is how I like to do it, so I can kind of see what I'm doing. So you always want to have a floor under every wall. Okay, so now we got that fixed. Let's add a little flavor to the actual walls themselves. So let's go back to the wall layer, and we've got these other. God damn it! We've got these other tile sets. You know, if I don't answer twice in a row, what makes you think the third time's going to be a charm? This isn't like, I don't know. So we've got these tiles for the dungeon area. We've got windows, but we've got these other ones. So this is the statue / jug thing with the little cubby wall in it. So let's go ahead and put a few of those around, just to give the room a little bit of character here and there. Doesn't have to be in every room. You know, you can theme your rooms. Try to make rooms have a point. And then you got this one with the casket. This is your tomb wall. So I might say reserve that for an entire wall area of like the tomb area. So if this floor isn't tomby, don't use it. You know, leave it for maybe floor 2 or something like that. That's what I do, Wolf. I do the floor first, and then add the walls in later. So I'm going to skip that kind of wall, but I'm going to put a couple cubbies here. So we got this wall here, which is the one that has the shelves in it. So usually these would be existing in like the end of a long hallway. Like here would be a good place for one. Except I'm going to use the one single-sided one because I don't want to draw four-sided cubby walls. I draw a single-sided one, and we'll have to change the direction that faces here in a little bit. I'm going to put one here, and then I'm going to put a four-sided in the middle of this room. So I'm going to go back to the directional data now, and I'm going to do the east-facing arrow for these two, so they face outwards and into the room. Then we'll put a receptacle wall and a mask wall over here, probably at the end of this nice long place here. So there's the mask, and its receiver wall would go there. Mask is again facing the wrong direction. And then, damn it, I just screwed up. Okay. So I actually was still on directional data when I put those two things on there. So I'm going to go back to wall layer, because I'm an idiot, and we'll put these back in place. And we'll direction the mask to face south. This one's already facing north, so it's okay. Alright, so now we've got that. This one is a column. So again, the wall layer. Let's make sure we're on the wall layer here. And we'll draw some columns in some of these rooms. Just so you have something going on in these rooms here. Now remember, every time you add a light, you want to keep the light themed correctly. So you have to go back in there and change the color of it. In one of these rooms, you're going to want to put a teleporter, which I don't think the actual stuff works for it yet, but it's going to be, teleporters are two parts. The first part is the floor detail layer, which you want to do wall layer. And I might rename these just so it's easier for you. So you take this one here, which is the portal, and we'll put it in here. And now on top of that, you're going to have the interactable layer, which is going to be teleport beginning. It's blue. Maybe Adam already has this. So you place teleport beginning on that block there. And then teleport end would take you, say, here. So when you reach that particular teleporter, it might take you to floor 2. Alternatively, you could do stairs up and down as well. That would work the same way, which, again, I don't think that's actually in yet. But we can go ahead and put some stairs in. So let's go to wall layer. And we'll do the down floor. And that's going to exist here. And that's facing into the room, so that should be fine. So I believe we'll have to put an extra interactable on that. I don't know exactly how that's going to work yet, but it might work the same thing as a teleporter. I don't know. So that would be your exit to the level. Now you would want to, of course, for the sake of mappy, or I'm sorry, for the sake of auto map, create your up level somewhere similar. So, you know, if your up level is going to be in the same place, roundabout, that would be 4 blocks in. That would be here. So that would be your up if you were to map this accordingly. So let's just go ahead and put a connector there so that you can actually get to it. So that's how that would work. Does that make sense? So if you went down one layer here, you would go up the other one. Okay, so let me take a look at what you're saying. You will at some point, Wolf. That is not in the game yet. As far as the selecting a theme, that's something we still need to build. So yeah, when we get to that point, I don't know exactly how Adam plans to address that, if he is. I'm sure that he will, but at this point that is not in, so all this is one theme right now. If you were building with a different theme, you would theoretically have a different set of tiles here, or an additional one down below. But again, on a single map, you're probably going to have one theme. So we're dealing with one single map here. So let's just go ahead and flesh out another floor so that we can test 4 players. So I can go back to, again, the wall layer. And I'm going to come over here to floor 2. And I'm going to go ahead and start putting walls in over here too. Now keep in mind the some of the details that we currently have, and I might change this. Some of the details that show up, like the ivy, are only currently showing up on the north side of a tile. So if one of these walls, if you want to have it, and this may change, if you want to have the details show up on the south side, you would have to put the directional modifier on there. So that's something to keep in mind. Some of the stuff I have showing up on both sides, some I do not. So it's kind of a crapshoot at this point, and I don't know exactly how it's going to be done when it's completely finished, but just be aware of that for now. Yeah, and this we're going to do another single floor. I'll wait till floor 4 to do a double floor. Just because it's a little more difficult to do. Okay, so now let's pop in our torches. Alright, and then we'll do our directionals. So we'll start with facing south. Excuse me. And we'll do our west ones next. I think that's all of them. I missed the south one though. Alright, now we need to do this direction, facing west. Okay. So that should be all of that we need to adjust. Now we need to color them. Let's color them something else. Now assume at this point that we've got this actually working and the flames will match the color. In other words, the flame particle is not currently set up to match the color of the light that this is going to be putting off. So we want to make sure that the stuff matches in the end. So now we've colored all the lights on this layer red, and I want to make this a tomb. So we're going to change a lot of these walls. We're going to go back to the wall layer now, and let's use the tomb wall, and let's theme this as a tomb. So anywhere where there's not a torch in these walls, and this one I shouldn't have done that. So keep in mind on these corners that are not visible, don't use a specialty block because that's just a rendering thing. You don't want to render a block that you can't see. So this will be the burial area when you go through that doorway, and this is another tomb area. And maybe this one's got a window in it or two. I don't know. Maybe we'll do it that way. This one I'm going to put a 4-way cubby in the middle. So you'll have a shelf in the middle of that one. Let's take a look at. This long hallway, I probably put masks in, do something with that. And let's see, a couple of these would look nice to have around. The statue ones. So just keep that in mind while you're doing this to try to make them look a little more interesting, of course. So I will go back to the floor layer now and start filling this in where I know I have it. So I do this step secondly. Rather than add wall to it to begin with, I go ahead and come back in and I fill my floor layer. And I'll read chat here in a second, in case you have more questions. And don't worry, all this stuff that I'm overwriting is still there. It's just on a higher layer, so you don't see it when I cover it up. That's one way of knowing you've covered all the walls. Okay, so now when I move this and go back to the actual wall layer, everything will show up again. I did forget to put a directional though on these masks, so I'm going to come over here and put a southern facing direction on there, and that should be good. Let's go ahead and add a few more walls in here for interest's sake. And let's add some pits too. So let's go back to the floor layer, and so now this, in this particular case, you might want to see where the wall is. So if this, okay, let me read what you said here. Here's how I'm assuming themes are going to work, Wolf. You build a map based on whatever tile set you currently have, because there's going to be, say, 16 walls, 5 kinds of doors, whatever. At some point, I put in extra tile sets that are analogous to that set. So your set should perform the same way regardless of what the theme is. Does that make sense? So if I build this with mine walls or temple walls or whatever, door outside even, it should all be the same. So an outside, your walls might be a combination of rocky walls and trees or whatever. It should all translate over. So it shouldn't necessarily matter how you design it. It should all work when the extra theme is made, I hope. That's how I perceive it's going to work. So if you want to be able to edit the floor layer and still see the wall layer, go into here, go to onion skin, and then I believe you do, yeah, okay, where it says edit layer in front, I believe you just turn that off, and then you can kind of see where the walls are, as long as you don't hover over them. As soon as I hover over it, it gets rid of that. But for now, I want to put a couple pitfall things in here, just for the sake of having something different in there. So it might be helpful to be able to see where those are at. And then again, go back to the wall layer, put the either the gratings on top, which is what I'm going to do here, or you could put the pitfall trap, which is this one, on those, in case you want to set up a pitfall at some point. And we might put a flipper there and a flipper there, or a pressure plate, sorry, on those two sides. So, and last but not least, I'm going to go to detail layer, and again, I'm going to put lava here. Now, be aware that in reality, we would have to account for this lava somewhere on the floor below it, more than likely. If this was like a mountain or something, the lava should probably, come from somewhere, but, you don't have to be that nitpicky, I suppose. So, all right, now we've got 2 layers done. I'm going to go ahead and hit save on this. And then I'm going to go into the interactable layer, over to P2, and I'm going to have player 2 spawn right here. So again, I'm going to save this one more time, and let's pop over to Unity and take a look at how this works. Alright, so we're going to load the 4-player test map, which is 1. And I'm going to hit F1 to render player 1. Or maximize to see what I'm doing. I hit F2 to render player 2. So now player 1 and player 2 are in the scene. I'm going to hit 1 a couple times to give them each a torch. It looks like Adam has by default given player 2 a blue torch. So as you can see now, we're rendering 60 out of 64 lights here. So we're rendering almost all of them at this point because 2 players are happening. So player 1 is now in dungeon floor 1, moving around, and I'm controlling these both with the same arrow key, so that's why I move at the same time. Obviously, when this has 4 different players, they'll be moving at different times. So player 1 is now going through the dungeon that's on floor 1. Player 2 is getting stuck in a wall on dungeon floor wherever the hell he's at. Oh, and I just went through a teleporter. There you go, Wolf. Player 2 is now on player 1's dungeon because he happened to walk into the teleporter. So that's kind of cool. I don't know how to go back through it. That probably hasn't been programmed yet, but they now currently are existing on the same layer. Now, the reason they look different is because the torch for player 2 is blue. I'm going to go ahead and change that. Let me pause this. See if I can't fix that, because I want it to look the same. Let's see. Player character, player view. How that works. Oh, okay, so we've got 2 different ones here. So we've got camera 1 and camera 2. There we go. Player camera. Alright, so where is our light at? So let's go close to here. Alright, so there should be a light somewhere here. So let me show my 3D icons real quick. Okay, the player light is right. That's not it. Okay, where's the player light at? That's what I want to know. Where is the player lights? Why am I not seeing one? Oh, okay, it's there. Alright, so there's the player light. I just gotta find it. It's probably attached to the camera, although I'm not seeing it. Where the hell is it? Might be on particles? No. Looking for the light source, so just give me a second here to figure out where it's at. Oh, there it is. So let's just copy this color. And I'm going to put it on player 2's camera here in a second. So that is here. Because I want them to have the same looking torch so that it looks similar while in game. Okay, now you can tell I'm on the same floor because the actual background torches will look the same. So Wish I could try to figure out where player 2 is. Let me look at mapping here real quick. So they came over up in that corner. I gotta find them now. Okay, let me think. Well, here's the sad thing, Wolf. I think when you guys brought that up to Adam in the first place, and he kept saying use a teleporter, the player won't know the difference. I think this is what he had in mind. It would just be limited to how many floors you could render at once. He just didn't have I guess he just didn't have an intelligent way of saying it to you guys. I don't know. So I think I'm heading towards player 2 right now. I should be up towards where the... Okay, so there's the teleporter. It didn't teleport me because I don't know how the... Okay, so there I am. So as you can see, I don't currently have a third player avatar, but second player is following first player there because you can see my torch in real time. You guys can see that, right? And if they both turn around, then I'm seeing player 2 on player 1's screen walking through the dungeon, so to speak. So see, as you can see, he's moving. And we currently do collide with each other, so I can't actually occupy the space he's in yet. But as you can see, they do work. So when you're on the same layer right now, we're only activating 29 lights. When we're on 2 different levels, we're activating almost all of them. So that's something I'm pretty sure Adam will have to tweak and intends to tweak at some point. So let's go ahead and build 2 more maps. Let's see what 2 more cameras does to performance. So, okay. So we've got the penis map. Let's go ahead and finish that one up. And let's move this over to penis map. Okay. The penis map won't take very long. It's cool to know that the teleporter works at least one way. Or one time, I guess I should say. Alright. I actually want to make this a 2-floor. No, we'll make the 2-floor floor 4. So, this one's okay. I'll leave this be. Okay, we're going to connect the spooge. With doorways. I'm just going to make this one very generic rather than go through a lot of detail. Let's add some, just for the sake of making it more difficult on ourselves, I'll make some 4-way torches here, which is probably a huge no-no at this point, but we'll see. Okay. Directional. I think I want to change this onion skin thing back to the way it was before. Okay. Alright, so that's good enough for that one. So let's go ahead and put the player 3 spawn point. Interactable, player 3. I'll put him right here. And let's go ahead and make another. Let's make another teleporter. So we'll put a teleporter here at the end of the spooge. And go to the interactable layer. I'll make that the beginning of the teleport. And the end of that teleport is going to take us to floor 1. Just for the sake of having it do something. Alright, so let's save that. I do need to put floors in between everything, so let me go back to the floor layer quick and get that done. One moment, please. I'm making meatloaf. It's starting to smell good in here. Okay, now we can save it. And let's go test. Oh god, you want a vagina one, huh? Oh jeez. Yeah, there'll be a bunch of spooge in there. Okay, so we'll have a floor that's all vages. I'm fine with that. Or a giant hole, you can just keep falling. The never-ending teleport hole. Once you enter the center of the vagina. Like, you could have like 100 teleports. People just think it's an unending loop, and if they actually wait 100 times, they'll be greeted by something really cool. Okay, so let's full screen this. Now, again, I am also streaming this. Here's another thing. It doesn't look like Adam's... Okay, there we go. I say it doesn't look like his thing is working. So 30 out of 78 are viewable from first person's view. So let's give myself a little bit of torch here. Now we're going to activate player 2. He has no torch on. Now we've pushed up to 60 out of 78 total lights are viewable. Let me see if that's still the case. So we're going to go ahead and add player 3. So I don't know what just happened there. It's an interesting layout there. That player 3 now is where it's at. I would think player 2 should be in the upper right, but we'll figure that out later. So player 3 is now the first camera at the top, which is kind of odd. And as you can see, his area, I never did add the lighting to it, so it's white. So we've got a yellow dungeon, a red dungeon, and a white dungeon. We are showing almost every light there is between the 3 players, which is going to be something he changes, I'm sure. Let's see, our stats are probably bad. We are still hanging around 30 frames per second right now, but it's going to be tough. So once you add enemies in here and you add these things like spell effects, so you know you're going to have that. I don't think you've seen that yet, Wolf, have you? It's pretty cool. It's going to get pretty heavy here pretty quick. But I presume Adam has a plan. So you just have to be super optimized at some point. Okay, so 4 players or 3 players is sort of working. I don't know what color he gave player 3. It doesn't look like he has a torch yet. But the game is running kind of shittily here. I put 4th player in. Yeah, player 3 and 4 don't seem to have a torch yet for some reason. Game is lagging pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. So it's going to take some miracles from him to get this performance up quite a bit. Right now I'm just hitting 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8 to do the different spells. The way the spell system will work, I actually do have... Okay, let's go back to player 1 screen here for a moment. So the intended spell thing is to go into spell mode, which this is programmer UI, so ignore it. But imagine you've got like a nice little graphic back here of 4 or 5 elements or whatever it is, 6 elements. So you would then, you'll rotate your thing between, say, fire or water or whatever to quickly get there. You'll hit, what is it, A to accept, B to accept, I can't remember. Oh, it's B to accept. So so you might have like 5 different elements here: water, wind, fire, air, or whatever, earth and light. And then you might have a second thing. So once you hit I want earth, we'll say, then this upper right might be the gas spell, this might be a heal spell, explosion spell, whatever. So once you set that, you hit accept, and then your spell will be ready to press the button for it. So it's a toggle into the spell. It's kind of like creating a rune, but not exactly. So, you know, just keep that in mind. It is not going to be a rune crafting system, but once you learn a spell, you're basically unlock that slot. So you'll go in here, select, we'll say I want to do a small, and again, this is just it's arbitrary at this point what these are analogous to. I want to do a small fire spell. Maybe it does an explosion or whatever. Set that as your primary spell, and then when you cast it, you'll get a combination of spells or whatever. You could probably mix and match elements if you want to generate different spell types. Like if you want to do an electric arcane blast or something like that, you could mix air and arcane together or whatever. So if you want to do a special healing spell, you might do earth plus heal plus water or something like that. Yeah, so I mean it's just garbage right now, but that's how it'll be. You press Y or whatever button to enter the spell casting mode. You'll select, using the twin stick, you'll select an element and then a spell type, and then you'll hit Y again to accept that as your equipped spell, and then you'll be able to cast that spell. That'll be it. Yeah, I believe it could be, Wolf. Potentially, yes. So right now I'm using the pad to move around. It actually works kind of nice. So. Works actually really well, especially with the turning. So, and then, mouse look will probably be right wheel, I'm assuming. I don't think he's got that triggered on the pad yet, but right now I'm using an Xbox controller. The nice thing about using the controller is just holding it down, I'm running forward. I have to keep pressing forward. That's really nice. You could do that. Yeah, you can have failure states, probably. I say probably because I'm not the one programming it, but I don't see why that would be an issue on performance. It might just be a little bit of a timing issue. I don't know. But this is very fitting music for this area. Okay, so let's try to figure out where the hell we are. I'm actually going to restart. I want to see if I can get player 4 started up here, but you get the idea. I mean, I don't think I necessarily have to create a 4th map here for you guys to understand how this is working. So one thing you could do, and this is something I was talking to Blind Man about earlier, Wolf, is I just realized I've been going back and forth between Mappy and not display. My apologies, Wolf. I think ever since you came into the stream, I was actually hosting the Mappy window and not the display, so you were not seeing my my menu drop downs. So I'm sorry about that if that's the case. I believe that is the case, but so I'm gonna go ahead and zoom this way out. So as I was mentioning to Blind Man earlier, you can have, floors 1, 2, and 3 be a full 32 by 32. But then maybe you want a pitfall that takes you to floor 4, and from there you go to floor 5, and from there you go to floor 6, 7, or 8. If you made those little individual pieces very small, you could get more layers out of it than just 4. So you don't have to build a 32 by 32. Just section off chunks, like, make yourself a grid system. Really, dude? Someone else. Hold on a second. Hello? Yes, it is. Okay, I'm back. I gotta send some guy a file here, so bear with me. But as I was saying, Wolf, does that make sense to you? Like you could have an 8-floor dungeon as long as they weren't all 32 by 32. Yeah, I guess is what I'm saying. So, you know, I think realistically, you would have probably 6 floors max. Where you know if the floor number 4 still has some pits in it, you could map those pits somewhere in the blank space. I've been stuck on tech support 3 hours, or over an hour. 4 hops through 3 requirements. Question: how many cores worth of Windows Server 26 do I need to purchase to get your what? That's lovely. Sounds like you're having a lot of fun there. So, do you guys have any other questions? Let me go back to that display capture quick. So back to this. Other than using Mappy, which I'm not particularly skilled at, do you have any general questions about the blocks that you're going to be using? In fact, let me make the 4th floor. I guess I never did do that. So let's zoom this back in a little bit. I want to make a 2-floor area. We'll use this area here for player number 4. He's going to start in a 2-floor area. So the 2-floor tiles are the ones that have the little split line in the middle of them. So this is a 2-floor wall with a torch, a 2-floor wall with no torch. This is a 2-floor wall without columns, 2-floor wall with columns, 2-floor wall with columns and a torch. And then finally you have a 2-floor wall with a pit and a 2-floor wall with a centerpiece pit. So let's go ahead and start with the walls. The floors first. And this is going to take a little bit of finagling because I don't remember off the top of my head how I got to do this. So we'll start with that. And then I'm going to build the pit in the middle. That's we're going to assume this is that boss room thing we've been discussing. So let me move in a little bit closer here so you guys can see. Okay, so we've got a multi-level pit going on here. And in the middle of that pit, I want to have a floor. And then on top of this, I'm going to go into the wall layer and add grading to all of these. Won't be necessary in there. And then I'm going to go to the modifications layer, the detail layer, and we'll add lava. This will be our lava beast at the core of this temple or wherever we are. Now let's go back to the wall layer again, and we'll add our 2-floor walls. Okay, and back down to the floor layer, and add our 2 floors in that wall section, so they actually have a ceiling. And again, back to the wall, I want to have a couple lights in here, so we'll put one on each corner. And these are unidirectional, so we do need to put the directional data in here. So this one will be facing right, this one facing left, this one facing down. Now, if in the middle of the room you want to have some pillars, let's go ahead and actually just make this where player 1 spawns, just for testing. So I'm going to go to Interactable. I'm going to move P1 right here. Now, assuming it does not erase where it exists elsewhere, it does not. So keep track when you do that you erase it from where it was originally. So player 1 is now going to spawn in this room so we can test it. Let me go ahead and save. And we'll run back to Unity quick. And let's test this. Okay, so I'm just going to render player 1 for the sake of testing this room. I'll make it nice and big so we can see what the heck's going on. Alright, so there's our giant room. So as it stands, it does not require that you put anything in the center. It all just works. But if you don't like the way that looks, like if you want to have a centerpiece or whatever with some columns in it, then we need to adjust that. So that's how just the basic tile set looks. So let's go back to Mappy one more time. And we'll go over to here where we have the columns. So these are different floors. They need to be placed on the floor layer. And what these will allow you to do is to build floors that have the chandelier effect. So we can actually come back here to say, actually, where was our wall before? So we'll put one at each corner. And I'll put one here and here. Actually, let's change this. Yeah, those two are fine. I'm going to change the other two. Other four. I'm going to put just these in because I don't want to put a whole extra bunch of lights in there. So let's save that and take a look at what that changed. So I added 4 areas where there should be columns now. Alright, so let's turn our torch up. So as you can see, now we've got those 4 columned walls sticking out above this mess we've got here. And I might have to build one more adjustment in case you want to have it over one of these tiles. Currently I don't have that ability, but let me make a couple little adjustments here. Let's go back to Mappy. And I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm going to do that in the center, and then I'm going to put one with the chandelier right in the middle. So I think that'll look cool. So let's save that, and I'm going to also put a couple more of these column ones in. Oh, wrong place. They should go here, 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 and here. Generally speaking, you don't want to overlap the column ones, otherwise it'll look kind of funky. So let me save that, and let's test that one out. Should look quite a bit cooler in here now with all that extra stuff in here. And I messed something up, but we'll figure out what that is in a second. I used the wrong tile. So this is me using the wrong tile. So the pit, as you can see, I used a single floor pit, which doesn't look bad, actually. I mean, it would be kind of interesting if you could do it that way, but not what I'm going for. Let me switch back to Mappy and fix that. So I goofed. Go back to the floor layer. I chose this floor instead of the one next to it. So I got to come back in here and put the 2-story version of that floor on. And then go back to Unity and test. To my knowledge, none of the enemies or the items or any of that kind of stuff have been implemented yet. So those interactables are not yet set up. So ignore those for now while you're testing this. So okay, here we go. So now we've got what I consider to be a cool looking room. The lighting is wrong because it's all still white, but it looks cool. So that gives us our base. You can see that the lava itself creates a hue to the place without even requiring me to have my own torch on or the yellow of the lamps on. So if we came back into the map one more time and we went to the modifications layer, modifiers layer, and I added a red glow to these 4 wall torches and the one in the center, and I'm also going to put in a doorway. So basic 1-floor door works fine. Just make sure you have a 2-floor wall attached to it. So, wall layer, we'll add this guy, and we want him facing outwards, which is fine, I think. We might have to change the floor, though. Let's take a look. The floor will have to be like that. Oh, except I got it wrong. Oops. Okay. Let's just go ahead and build the floor that I know I'm going to want. And we'll put in a one-story floor layer or wall layer around it. And let's save that. And one more test, and then I'm going to go do some cooking and get off of here. So, hopefully this is useful. Obviously, I'll be around if you have questions as good as I can. Yes, you'll have to memorize the icons until I get you some method to make a legend out of it. So now we've got, well, it looks like that one torch is not being modified. I'll have to let Adam know that central torch is not grabbing the color like the others are. So that one grabbed the red. The central one did not. But I'll be damned, that actually looks pretty cool. And then we should have a door around here somewhere. So let's turn our torch up a little bit so we can see. Not that corner. There it is. So there's our way out of this room. And I did put the wrong floor in there. So as you can see, if you're going to go from one floor to two, you want to use the dual floor, which is one thing I wanted to show you guys before we left. But that does actually matter. So let's go back over to our floor layer. And we need to have a double floor set up there. So that should be... Actually, wait a minute here. Why did that look like that? That shouldn't be like that. I know I had a fix for this. I'm just trying to remember which one it is. Maybe I have to turn the wall around. What do you think here? Oh, I remember. I actually added a piece for this. Ooh, where did I put it? This is in the mods layer. Just gotta remember which one it is. It's this guy. This needs to go on here. Floor 9. So that is... Which one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What? Oh, that's not it. That's not it. I had a fix for this. I'm just trying to remember how I did it. That's a good question. It might be I just did directional. Either way, I will fix this somehow. I just have to figure out how I do it. So let's face this wall around. Which floor is on it? Floor layer. So it's got a 2-story floor on it, which should probably only have one. Let's see if that fixes our problem. Let's take a look. It would be more helpful if I didn't make mistakes, but such as it is life, I suppose. Okay, that's still jacked up. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to fix that. I know I had a fix in place for it, I just can't remember what it was. See, from this direction it looks fine, from that direction it doesn't. I think I needed to add... I thought I had something to do that. Let's take a look around here quick. There's the pit hole. See, it seems like it should be this one. Floor fill. Okay, it is this one. Floor detail 9.2, floor fill. That's it. So let's go back to Mappy. I knew I had it in here. I just can't read, apparently. So on this one, we actually want to use the floor detail 9. So we got to go to the detail layer. Choose floor detail 9, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't have an icon for it yet. That's my bad. Put that in there. I'm going to take the directional data out of it. And save it one more time. And let's test that. I think that'll fix our problem. Okay, please let that be correct. Yes, it is. Okay, that's how you fix it. You add that floor detail piece to it, and then you'll be in good shape. So now it looks correct from both directions, and you'll have a happy room. Ta-da! I'll have Adam fix that so that it displays the right mod. But that's all there is to it, guys. Okay. So yeah, if you wanted these pits to be openable or whatever, I suppose we might be able to make that interactable at some point in case you wanted to do like a boss fight, like a one-time thing where these go flying into the air. We might be able to accomplish something like that. But if you wanted them to be open, say Kingsfield the Ancient City boss sitting in here lobbing fireballs at you or whatever, you could do that too. Okay, I think that covers majority of the blocks and how they work. So you should be able to build from that. So, anyhow, I'm going to get off of here for now, and I will see you guys later. So I appreciate you coming in. Anybody who's watching, thank you for stopping in and watching. Let me just make sure I addressed everything that you guys were saying. Oh yeah, the vagina and uterus. Yes, I will get to that. There will be a giant sweaty vagina at the bottom of one of these holes. Memorize the icons. Blind Man, I will probably make you a legend at some point so you can see them more easily. I'll figure out something to help you out on that. Mr. Bailey, $129 laptop equals 1050 GTX 4GB Intel Core i5 8300H 8GB SD RAM 16GB Intel Optane 1TB hard drive. Yay or nay? That's not a bad laptop. With a caveat, I don't quite understand why it's an i5 and not an i7, but i5 is not bad. I mean, you're not. I don't think the processing thing is going to be your problem. It's got enough memory. I don't know what 16GB Intel Optane is. I don't even know what that is. 1TB hard drive space. Is that okay? Does it have the ability to add an SSD to it down the road? That's not a bad thing at all. It sounds like a pretty nice laptop. What brand is it, if I may ask? Actually, while you're doing that, let me get this stupid thing ready for this guy. That seems like a pretty nice. Was that at Walmart? I take it. Because that seems like a pretty decent rig. It's nothing to sneeze at. HP. The only thing I will say, one thing: you cannot typically upgrade a laptop in any fashion. Fuck you. Jesus Christ. Hold on a second. Hello? Okay, yeah. So HP, send me in Discord. Send me the actual link to it so I can take a look at it and just make sure there's no red flags anywhere. But it sounds like a pretty nice computer. I don't know if you can get a discount on it or anything like that, but if you can, you know, it would be worth. It sounds like it's a nice machine. Sounds like a pretty nice machine, sir. So I don't know when you'd be able to get it, but it does sound nice. Okay, let me save this. do mappy stuff after I punch in some time. I will do my best to watch if you're going to stream that. No guarantees. I don't know how busy I'll be tonight, but anyhow, I gotta go do some other work, so I'm gonna jump off here. If you guys have any questions, just bug me. I'll be around. And again, thanks for watching. If there's anybody watching, feel free to follow. And I will be continuing this later. So, see you later, dudes.